Okay. So, Wayne, I'm sorry, what's your last name?
Wayne Hazard with
Okay.
Dancers Group in San Francisco.
Dancers Group in San Francisco.
Right. So,
And I was asking you, do you think there was a trend in going to recorded music or working with live musicians and composers in dance?
what we're seeing in San Francisco, there's more interest if they can get those live performers on stage and have
Much better.
That resonance obviously with another set of performers in the work, and obviously if it makes sense to either have them incorporated in the piece. For instance, we did a project last year called Love Everywhere. It was about marriage equality and what that means, and the choreographer worked in City Hall in San Francisco and brought in an orchestra who was part of it, because one of the concepts of the piece was actually these multiple weddings happening at the same time. So they had the orchestra playing like they might, or a band playing like they might at a wedding. So it obviously made perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
But another group in San Francisco, Janice Garrett and Charles Moulton, did a piece called String Wreck, where they actually had a quartet, and the dancers were manipulating them and moving in and out of the instruments and sort of disrupting them, and they had choreographed that into both the composition of the music and how that was going to sound and feel, and the tension around that as well. So I think those two choreographers just did another piece with live music where they were traditionally just on the side. They weren't incorporated in the work in terms of that. Obviously the ballet in San Francisco, or most ballet companies have, enough money to have, live music with that. So it can be one of the criticisms. Dance critics in particular will talk about, like, why was that piece recorded? It sounded so horrible, rather than getting and raising enough money to have live music.
Okay. That's an interesting fact. Yeah. So they want to see, the critics want to see more.
Well, they're
live
realizing
music.
What that means, in terms of that. So I think it's also coming from a generation where that, because of costs maybe, that was felt more feasible, and then with the advent of just being able to borrow and or get recorded music, dancers, choreographers, using that in different ways. I mean, not being West Coast centric, but Mark Morris in New York, who almost exclusively uses live music with his performers. But he's at a stage in his career where he can do that and gets commissions to do that. So I think it's this interesting tension. If does the dancer, the choreographer, the dance company's work really speak to or want to have live music in it, and is it just a cost issue, or is it an artistic issue?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. As you all know, it's not cheap.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, absolutely. I mean, because if you see a piece and it's pre-recorded, maybe it's because it fits the artistic vision of the director, as opposed to. But I would think, I'm as a composer myself, I've written for dancers, and from our point of view, it's just fantastic to have somebody dance to your music and have somebody choreograph your music.
Or recorded?
Recorded would be fine too. I mean, but to have written the music knowing someone's going to set it to motion, someone's going to choreograph it, is a really amazing experience. And I would like to think that would be a great experience for choreographers too, to get this music and then set it to dance.
Well, and we've seen even more people who are sampling or experimenting on stage with either sounds or sort of the John Cage kind of sensibility, where you might be doing something but actually mixing it or dealing with the electronics of it live.
Right.
We see a lot of that in San Francisco in terms of collaboration with choreographers, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even though it's not actually, a cello or a piano, it is coming in that very of the moment experience.
That's great. Thank you. This is good.